Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next speaker, Koray Oksay, presenting the topic, continuous deployment, the GitOps, the pipelines, and the ugly.
Yep, thank you very much. Welcome everyone. Well, I just landed this morning to Vilnius. I haven't have much time to see around, but it looks like a very nice city so far. I hope I will have some time tomorrow to see around. Today I will talk about continuous deployment and GitOps and our traditional pipelines and some good and bad stuff around those. My name is Koray. I work as a Kubernetes consultant and instructor at Kubernetes. We have automation for managing multi-Kubernetes clusters on multiple or different clouds. We also do consultancy and training as well. I live in Istanbul, work remotely. The company headquarters are in Germany, Hamburg. I am a CNCF ambassador for the last month. So with the latest version, I have some certificates around Kubernetes. Also a contributor for the K8s infra. I'm also KCD Istanbul organizer, which happened last week actually in Istanbul, which was a very good event. And I also know it's how hard to organize an event, and want to congratulate all the organizers. It's a really hard job. So how many of you use Kubernetes on production? Oh, almost everyone, yeah. Who uses GitOps already? Okay, very nice. Who considers to use it, wants to use, but doesn't want to spend so much time migrating changes? Okay, cool. So you're in the right talk, I hope. So for releasing and deployments, there are some anti-patterns. The worst or the biggest one is the manual deployments. So when you deploy stuff to first test the environment, then maybe staging, how many environments you have, you do maybe development and then testing, maybe staging or acceptance, and then you go to production. If you do all those deployments manually, well, by definition, they won't be the same. So if you just change one step, if you forgot to export a variable in one step, and then they won't be the same, and they will probably outcome with a different result all the time. So we definitely don't want that. So that's why we have the whole pipeline stuff and make everything automated. When we say manual deployments here, I mean really like checking the scripts, running commands manually. So of course, if you have, I mean, for production, you might want to, you may not want to do the deployments all the time, maybe some specific times, etc. But this is like manually triggering the automated platform or automated thing, whatever. So here the automation is the key point. It can be manually triggered, but the deployment itself or running the commands should not be manually. The second anti-pattern is to deploy the production-like environment. This could be acceptance, this could be called pre-prod, this could be called staging, whatever it is, a bit late. So most of the time, people do it like before actual release, like a few days before, maybe a week before, to make sure that the product owners or whoever responsible to check if this is what they actually want. But this is a bit late because you're just about to, I mean, you're very close to deadline. You go there, production-like environment, and you have problems. So ideally, you need to deploy those type of environments more frequently, so that if there are issues with the scaling maybe or other performance stuff or related to some permissions, you need to see them early in your development stage. And the third one is the manual config management. The configurations must be in a central place. You should not change the production configuration manually. It should be stored somewhere, and it should be the same as the live environment at that moment. So the CI/CD stuff comes to our help here. So when we say CI/CD, it's a continuous integration. So when you develop something, you push your code, and then some integration starts. You run the something runs your tests, like the it could be an integration test, it could be unit test, it could be performance tests, whatever those type of integrations runs, and you or the development team make sure that the code works as they want, as it's required. The second part is the continuous delivery or continuous deployment. There's a difference there, but I here mainly mean the deployment part. When you test your code, when it's ready to go production, it should also need to be delivered automatically or continuously. Of course, again, it might wait for some sort of approval, but still the whole process should be done automatically. So CI/CD helps us with the three problems I mentioned previously, and it solves almost all of it. So this is how a pipeline looks like in general. So developers, SREs, platform engineers, DevOps engineers, operation engineers, whatever you call them. I think they are the same people with different names, depending on the company. So they make some code changes for your application. They also make some configuration changes. Could be a YAML file, it could be ini file, depending on your application, your language, etc. The code is pushed to Git or GitLab or whatever, GitHub here, but then the pipeline runs. So because I will be talking about GitOps, it's this will be in the Kubernetes context. So a container image is created, it's sent to the registry, and then with some kubectl commands or maybe some different ways, this change, the new container image tag is pushed to the related Kubernetes cluster. So that actually solves a lot of our problems, but it also has some issues here. So there are four main issues. One of them is the correctness. So with the whatever pipeline script, whatever tool you are using, you need to make sure that it does atomic deployment. So if one step fails, then you need to make sure that either everything is rollbacked or it will be applied again and everything will be in a desired state. So that part is important. You need to make sure that within your deployment pipeline. Security is an issue because in that model, you basically provide credentials to your cluster to a third party. In the previous picture, it's GitHub. I'm not saying that GitHub is, you can trust. I'm not saying that it's not trustable, but in the end, it's a third party. It's out of your organization, so you are just giving away some credentials to some other people. Also, the current state is not exactly known. So you might, your pipeline might run, everything worked very well. It deployed the code, your new code, new container image, but you are not aware if someone else made some manual changes on the cluster. This could be the case. So yes, when you check the pipeline, you think that, okay, this version is now on production, but when you check the actual cluster, it might be different because someone else might have done some manual changes. And well, about the developer experience, so there's also a debate about DevOps, about shift left. if the developers should do the operations, etc. That stuff. But in the end, I mean, in general, developers do not want to deal with the operational stuff. They don't want to deal with the deployments, check if deployment is successful, etc. They just want to deal with their own code. That's it. So for the development experience, also in the previous or in this form, they need to understand why the pipeline failed. What happened if there was a problem with the cluster, if there was a problem with the connection, if there was a problem with the script or authorization, etc. So regarding the developer experience side, that push model is also not the best. Again, solves a lot of problems. If you don't have anything, this is great, but also it has some issues with it as well. So in the real world, this happens with a pipeline most of the time. I mean, that happened to me. So basically, especially if you make, if something fails and then start to make manual tweaks on the production system, then it gets more and more complicated. But then you can just add the LinkedIn skills like DevOps automation and troubleshooting. You can definitely add troubleshooting, but yeah, it doesn't mean that you solve the real problem there. So what GitOps provides us is a different approach. It's a pull method this time. So instead of pipeline pushing the changes to the cluster, something in the cluster pulls the changes from Git itself. So in that case, again, different people make different changes. And when the CI pipeline runs, it creates a container registry. So it creates a container image and pushes it to the container registry. But then it makes a configuration update, like a YAML update or something. And when this is done, it is read by, or it is just pulled by the tools. It could be Argo CD or Flux. There are some other tools, but these two are the main ones. And they basically apply those changes to the cluster. So instead of something running inside a Kubernetes cluster just gets the changes. But of course, a recommended practice would be this way. So you have a repository for your code and another repository for the configuration. So that makes more sense instead of a monorepo with code and configuration altogether. But this one, again, CI makes a config update to the configuration repo, and then these are pulled by the GitOps tools and applied to the cluster. So why do we have GitOps, or what are the principles around it? So well, Kubernetes already brings us the declarative approach, right? So you when you want to run a workload, you already define it declaratively in the cluster, saying that, hey, I want this and that, that many replicas, that version. If the load increase it to that many replicas, etc., etc. Here with GitOps, it's also declarative. So basically, you change the YAML files, and then these changes are applied to the cluster. Because everything is in Git, it is versioned and immutable. So you know who made what change, when, and if that caused a problem or not. Another thing is that, again, whenever you pushed something to a certain branch, so with a PR, or you directly do it, again, depending on your setup, those changes are pulled automatically to the cluster. So there is no manual intervention. There could be some manual intervention that is also possible, but by default, there is nothing, and cluster just pulls the changes and then applies them. And again, with this, it's continuously reconciled. If someone goes there, make a manual change to the cluster, then the tool just reconciles them. Okay, so on Git side, it's 3 replicas. Someone made it 5 replicas. Then Argo or Flux just takes it back to 3 because, yeah, you can't make manual changes, and you shouldn't be. So with this reconciliation, you make sure that at a given time, like what you put on Git repo and the cluster are the same. So that brings us the single source of truth. Basically, you can just trust whatever on your Git repo. It should be on the cluster itself as well. Another question is it perfect? Not necessarily. So this is so we have a project with CNCF, and we provide support for the pro clusters of Kubernetes project itself. And we were, I mean, on those EKS pro clusters, there's Flux. We wanted to do some changes. So this is like public. You can check what happened there. But basically, we made some wrong changes with my friend Marco, and I realized it while the PR is not merged. But then we somehow decided that it will be fine, but it wasn't. Then the Flux just removed itself from the cluster. But the good part was that we just got back to the previous state like in 2 or 3 hours, and the long time was because of there were some manual secrets, external secrets needs to be defined by some people. So that was the problem. If it wasn't there, the cluster was going to be up again in, I don't know, 10-15 minutes or so. So in the end, if you make a mistake, then things go wrong again with GitOps. It doesn't mean that everything will be perfect. There won't be problems at all. There could be problems as well. Now it's demo time. It didn't take much. Nice. So yesterday I did polls on LinkedIn and Twitter. People wanted to see Argo. Is there any preference here? If anyone wants to see a demo with Argo, I have both of them prepared. Doesn't matter. I'll go with Argo then. Okay. Then I wanted to do Flux, but people don't want it. So this will be just a Argo instruction. Is it visible big enough? Okay. So to install Argo CD, I don't know if you know this, but there's a platform called Killer Coda. Basically now here I have a Kubernetes cluster with 2 nodes. I can manage it from the web browser, and I'll do run some stuff with it here. You can also go there and try this out. It's free. To deploy Argo CD, they provide some manifests. I made some changes to this one to fit this demo and my environment, but basically you can just go to the documentation and see those manifests. So the install YAML, these are non-high available ones, and you can also install it per namespace, or there are also high available ones. There are also Helm charts, but these are, to my knowledge, they are community charts, so not from the Argo project itself. So what I do here, I first create the Argo CD namespace and then install this install YAML file. As you see, it deploys a lot of stuff, some CRDs, deployments, network policies, etc. And if you see, actually, there are 3 main CRDs applications. applications, application sets, and projects. These are the important ones. And let's wait for Argo to be ready. So there will be some pods. So they are all ready now. Great. And if you check, so there is the application controller, server, repo server, Redis for its personal, like Argo's own configuration, etc. So it deploys some stuff to the cluster. If so, for the people who don't know it or are not aware, Argo has a UI, or like, yeah, a UI tool where you can manage everything from the UI, but you can also manage everything from the CLI. It also comes with a CLI. On the other hand, Flux is like has only the CLI. There are some UIs for it, but I would say they are read-only. They are just to see things around, but not to manage the Flux itself. So these are the main differences, I would say. So I will also install the CLI tool and Argo CD. Yeah, it has some. We'll use those commands in a bit. So you can create applications. So these are called applications when you want to deploy a workload. It could be a public Helm chart. It could be like Prometheus or something. It could be your own application. But these are called applications in the Argo. So this is what a Argo application looks like. Or basically, you just say that, hey, this is the name, this is the namespace I wanted, and I want to deploy it to the very same cluster. What you can do, you can have a Argo cluster and manage other clusters from that management cluster, I would say. But you can also have the or do the management for the local cluster. You can also make projects. There's default project. I did not create more, and this is the main part. So you just want to say that from this repo I want to install whatever under guestbook path. Let's check this one also out. Did this work? Yeah, okay, cool. So here I just forked it. This is from the Argo project itself. So there is a guestbook path, and whatever under here, so these two YAML files will be applied to my cluster. So that's simply what this application will do. And during the sync, I also say that if there is a new namespace needed, create it as well. If you don't put this and you want to, let's say, deploy this application to dev namespace, and if it doesn't there, then it won't be able to sync because the namespace doesn't exist. You need to create it manually. So let's create this Argo application. It is created, and let's get it. So you can just take it with kubectl commands. Let's do it once more. So by default, because I did not add sync options, it's out of sync, and the health is missing. Out of sync means that there is a difference between what is on the cluster and what is on Git side. So basically, here nothing is installed. I think it was going to install it on guestbook namespace. Nothing is installed, so there are things that we need to install on Git, but they are not on the cluster at this moment. So let's. This is my admin password. Let's see the UI. Are you with me, or are you all like wanted to go home? This is the last, very last presentation. So this is the application we just created, and as you see, the same information here. So if you're a CLI guy, then CLI person, then you can do it the other way around. So as you see, it says that I need to create those. This is the app. It will create a service and a deployment, but right now it can't. Do we sync it? Yes, let's sync those. So here you can just click on sync, synchronize. So here you see that these are out of sync, right? These two things, and let's synchronize them. And magically, Argo will be creating those. Because this is a deployment, then it created the replica set. Because it was a service, it created endpoints, etc. And now a pod is just coming up. So it is synced. So the same configuration or the same YAML files are now applied to the cluster, progressing because the pods are not ready yet, or whatever you deploy are not ready yet, not all of them. So as soon as pod is up and running, it will just say that the app is healthy. You can also check it here with kubectl. It's synced, progressing, same stuff. So again, depends on how you want to manage your cluster. And here you see that, you see that in the guestbook namespace, guestbook UI is container creating. I think it will be up soon. Yeah, so it's running, and here it's healthy. Yeah, the UI is, yeah, now it's healthy. Everything is running fine. That's the first part. You can create the same application using the CLI. So initially I created with a YAML file. You might hate YAML files. I sometimes feel like I'm a YAML engineer, and then my eyes are bleeding, and it's not nice. There are two more ways. So you can create an app here from the UI directly. Give the name, give the repository URL, everything, whatever I put the YAML file, or you can also use the CLI command line, and with Argo CD app create blah blah blah. You can also create it. I just need to define those first. So I just log into the local host, because yeah, this is actually a local machine on on the cloud. Killer Coda. So here I created application. This time it's named gbook app, and you see the gbook app is also just here. Again, out of sync. I didn't put sync options, so not running at the moment. If you also list, so guestbook, this is the first one. It is synced, healthy, and the other is out of sync and missing. And Argo CD app sync. Now I want to sync the second one in the app-2 namespace. It's progressing and it's done. This one is faster. Why? Sorry. Yeah. So the container image was downloaded with the first one, so it just started the image. So initially it took time to download the first image, so that's the whole stuff. And you see in the UI they are also synced and now healthy, everything. Again, CLI, UI, whichever you prefer, or the YAML files, it's up to you. So let's do some GitOps. So far I didn't do anything on the Git side. I just created some stuff kind of manually, just to show you around. But that's the more important one. So let's go one of the applications. This one. So I want to change some settings here, and I want to enable autosync. So this was disabled by default. I also want to prune resources and self-heal. The prune resources is that, let's say you made some changes. For example, you removed the ingress. So in the very first version, you had an ingress object, but then later at some point you removed it. With this prune option, it will also remove the ingress as well. Otherwise, by default, maybe I should say, Argo will not remove those sort of resources directly. The prune needs to be enabled. So let's go here and change some settings in the deployment. I want to change the replica count to 3. Commit changes, scale to 3. Now I commit changes, and here hopefully short time. So by default it checks it every 3 minutes, so 180 seconds, but I made a change it to 20 seconds for the demo. Otherwise I did it once and I waited very long time. So you need to get some lessons from your changes. Now we have 3 pods. You just made the change on the Git side, and it's just applied here in the cluster. We committed, pushed, and what I can also do is that so I created both applications from the same config, which might be okay. So you might have different organization, like different teams working on different namespaces with the same application. Then this one, because I did not enable autosync here, this one says that it's out of sync. Because in Git it's 3 replicas, but here it stayed as 1 replica because it wasn't auto-synced. You can also do that for production to make sure that you made those changes in a given time after getting some approvals from the management or however things work for you. You can also make some manual changes. So I just changed the number of replicas to 5 for the second one, and as you see here there are 5 running, and it should also be the same here, please. Yeah, there are 5 pods running, but again this was not auto enabled auto sync. So if I enable it, as you see now, it's removing the pods and make it 3 again. So simply you cannot make manual changes to the cluster if you enable auto syncing. So regarding deployments, what I did was just I deployed some YAML files for my applications, right? But you may want to deploy some customized applications or applications that you normally deploy by customize, that is supported. You may also want to install or deploy Helm charts. That is also supported, but there is one catch with Helm. That is Argo CD does not. So what Argo CD does is that before deploying the Helm chart, it runs Helm template, creates manifests, and then apply those manifests. So you simply don't have you don't see anything with Helm ls or similar commands. So actually a chart is not deployed, but the manifest about for that chart is deployed. Of course, you can reach the version, etc., with the annotations and everything, but you basically don't see the Helm chart itself. It's different for Flux. Flux actually manages it as a Helm chart. It has its own Helm release thingy, another object, but it treats them as a different object. So these two are the main differences between Argo and Flux, I would say, the UI and how they treat the Helm. Let's deploy let's check our customization thingy. So another one. So in the repo there's a customized guestbook. So it's the same application, but it's with customize. Where is it here? So the same deployments, but it has a customization YAML. That's the main difference. So if you want to use customize for your different environments, you can also do it with Argo and also with Flux as well. So let's create this one. Now I should have a new app. KDemo is here. For this one, as you see, sync policy automated, and prune and self-heal are true. So for this one, I just applied it and directly it got all the changes, so it didn't wait for me to manually update things. And let's check the tag of this. So here with the KDemo, when we go to the pod, you can just see the live manifest, and it is version 0.1, right? So let's make the change the tag to 0.2. Change tag version. Let's commit this, and hopefully within 20 seconds there will be a new pod, and this one actually there will be a new replica set as well, because there is a new version coming by. And is it? Yeah, here you go. So there's a new replica set with a new version 0.2, I hope. Yeah, here you go. So you just deployed the new version to the cluster. And I mentioned about Helm. It just applies Helm template and everything. There are a lot of documentation around it, best practices, how you should be organizing your GitOps repository with what sort of directories, names, etc., both for Argo and Flux. You can just check them. You can just do those scenarios as well if you want. And in Killer Coda, there are many more. You can just check them out and see how it works. So this is all I have to say. This is the way, and hopefully you start using GitOps. I think it will help you more with your deployments. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. But now we still have like questions, at least 6 at this moment. So I will just ask maybe any live questions from here. If not, I will start from the most rated. Yeah, I see two likes like for 2 questions. So the first one, what would be your guidelines, recommendations, and having to decide between using Argo, CD, and Flux CD?
I kind of answered that, I think. So the main difference is if you want to use the UI or not to manage things. If your team needs a UI, then you should go with Argo CD because it doesn't exist with Flux. But that also has a complication. Last week, as I said, at KCD Istanbul, we have a company called Trendyol in Turkey. It's a e-commerce company. They were using Argo, and they had around 1,000 applications or something. And I mean, for different teams and everything, because like they were managing. So they had a central Argo cluster where they were managing other Kubernetes clusters. They said that at some point the sync time increased to 7 minutes or so, and they had a lot of issues with the UI because the UI was not able to load those 1,000 applications, which is I think expected. So you could end up with those kind of performance-related issues if you have that sort of large system. You might need to change your architecture, but I think it's up to your preference. Both tools are fine. Another point with Flux is that maybe vWorks was the main developer for Flux. Now they are out of business. I know that some maintainers are already like sponsored by some companies, and it's also Flux is also a CNCF graduate project or CNCF project as well. So there is a support behind it, but it is also a little bit in a hard time, I would say. I think both are fine.
Okay, let's go to another one.
Well,
You already read, yeah?
yeah. The ugly is people. I think here. I mean, if you make a mistake in whatever ones, I think the good part is the automation. You should automate things. It doesn't matter if it is like GitHub Actions or GitOps. The automation is the key point. The important part. I think this is all what DevOps is about. But whatever you do, you need to test stuff and make sure that they are working, and you shouldn't go around what you build. So if you have a pipeline, but you should use PRs. You shouldn't directly commit to main or master branch, that sort of thing, because you are the admin. You shouldn't go around the and do stuff out of policy, let's say. Then things will be fine, I think.
Yeah, one more about Argo. What is the recommended way integrating Argo CD with multiple KS clusters? One instance per cluster or one Argo CD for multiple clusters for better maintenance?
Yeah. So that, I think, depends on how you want to do things. So if, for example, you add new clusters all the time, or they are coming and going, depending on your environment, maybe having a one central Argo and adding new clusters, that would make more sense. In the end, if you have, let's say, 10 Kubernetes clusters and install Argo in 10 of them, then you also need to maintain those 10 as well. So probably maintaining all those clusters from one central space would make sense. But as I said, with the Transiol's case, they had a lot of clusters behind Argo, and at the time, then they had performance issues. So depends. This is just like any other answer.
I see that it's already like time, but we have one also quite high rated question, short one. Why preserve resources on deletion is not on by default on Argo CD?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Okay, thanks for your honest answer and actually presentation. I will ask audience to give and share your warm applauses. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And here's
Thank you very much.
present from
Thank you
the
very much.
organizers.
Yeah, obviously. Thanks. Thank you very much.